Welcome to Reddit Reads r/ProRevenge. Our first Reddit post is from Fire Me Anytime. Fire me anytime, expost MaliciousCompliance. First of all, slash and any of you clickbait generating websites. You do not have permission to use this post in any way. This post is for the enjoyment and entertainment of the subreddit's readers, not for you parasites to try to monetize the writing of others. Eat a bag of dicks, the lot of you. The setting: hairs away. I used malicious compliance to get paid for doing nothing for the next year, while dedicating my efforts to the success of the competitors of the people who are paying me. This one is exceptionally long, but I hope you consider it worth the time. Office of a small plumbing company offering residential and commercial services 6 days per week plus emergency service after hours and Sundays. 3 employees that handle dispatching technicians, invoicing, scheduling, parts ordering, etc. We all have the same skill set and cover each other's backs. Technically, we've all been hired as dispatchers. Take note. Administrative stuff like payroll, accounts receivable, accounts payable, marketing are all done at head office, which has another 2 locations just like ours. The cast: Op 30s guy, single, no kids, very flexible schedule. Smashly, late 20s, single mom raising 3 brats between 5–10 years old. Constantly leaving early and missing days due to motherhood duties, doctor appointments, school meetings, etc. Howard, older than dirt. I think he helped Noah build the ark. Has even more elderly parents with dementia, and has an arrangement with his sister. He lives with his parents on Frisitson, and works monthers. Not available on the weekend under any circumstances. His sister lives with the parents monthers. Howard doesn't need the job, but if he leaves, then his sister will offload some of these days onto his plate, and is having none of that. Sob, you'll meet him later. So the way this worked was Howard would come in at 6 am and work until 230 monthers. She would cover the weekends remotely from home. Smashly would come in and work 9 am to 3 am and free, after getting her kids off to school and leaving early to pick them up. She also came in at 6 am on Fridays, since Howard was in. I would come in at 11 am, work to 730 am and free, and cover uncle emergencies after hours. My hours were altered from the 8,430 in my contract by verbal mutual agreement. I didn't mind, I liked to sleep in. All went along fabulously for a couple of years until Smashly fucked it all up. One of her duties was vetting and submitting timesheets for payroll, and head office noticed that one of the techs was consistently making more than the others. It turned out that Smashly was doing some horizontal dancing with one of the plumbers and was inflating his hours on the payroll. It all came to light when a customer called for a warranty issue on some work. The customer insisted that our tech was out, and the lady on the phone had told them that there was a 20% discount for cash. Emails were sent to head office, GPS records of the truck were examined, and their little scheme was discovered. She was puffing hours for the plumber, and they were making money on cash side jobs on the weekend. Both were fired for cause, and Smashly was stuck trying to raise 3 kids with no job and no unemployment. So now it's just me and Howard. HR owner called us into a meeting and explained that Smashly was no longer employed. We worked out a temporary arrangement for scheduling until a 3rd person could be added to the team. Howard would work his usual monthers, staying until 4 on Mon-Tues. He would pre-dispatch any late calls, which we would try to avoid. The field supervisor for the plumbers would take after-hours calls directly on Mon-Tues. I covered after-hours calls Wedson. I would work Wedson and come in at item on free and work until my regular close time. I would pre-dispatch the plumber's first calls on Thursday nights. She was let go last May. We were assured that this was a temporary arrangement until a replacement for Smashly could be found. September 1, enter Sob. With only 2 people covering the office, neither Howard nor I could take any time off, as there was nobody to cover. Sob was brought into the picture to handle administrative stuff, which admittedly had gotten a little loose when only Howard and I were covering. We were far too busy just trying to keep things running short-handed to deal with any of this stuff. Things like missing pass on parts orders, missing packing slips, reports of revenue and expenses being incomplete, that sort of thing. He was an ass. Howard and I were also told that Sob would cover the dispatch board if required. He came into the shop claiming that he had been brought in to whip us into shape. I can't stand him from the beginning. Abrupt, aggressive, and with a vocabulary that used a lot of swear words. Whatever. Just a dick. Let him handle the outward-facing stuff, dealing with vendors, ordering parts, fleet maintenance, all that crap. Fine. He also handled timesheets for payroll and reporting to head office. I am good with that, and if I have to deal with his bullshit for a couple hours 3 days a week, fine. I only worked under the same roof with him wet-free, from 11 am until his departure around 5. It was endurable. I had requested time off twice after he arrived, and had been denied both times. Worthy of note is that my contract specified 3 weeks holiday a year, and up until he arrived, I had only taken 2 days off in the spring. Fast forward to late November. If anything, Sob had gotten worse. He was really getting under my skin, and I had just about had enough. I have a teensy issue with anger, and it was becoming more and more difficult to rein in my rage and kick the shit out of him. Then came the straw that broke the camel's back. I get paid. I looked at my pay stub and saw that I was short 5 hours. This routinely put me up around 46 to 48 hours a week, with overtime after 44 hours. So these 5 hours I was short were overtime hours. I went to Sob on the Friday payday and asked for an explanation. So why am I short 5 hours on this pay? This was clearly directed at me and me only, as Howard only put in 38 hours a week and didn't cover Uncle. He replied that he had been directed to bring overtime down, and if I check my email, I will see a directive that states that under no circumstances is anyone to work overtime in this office. But I don't take a lunch. I deducted 30 minutes each day for lunch. I just eat a sandwich at my desk. Doesn't matter. I can take 30 minutes off your pay each day as unpaid break time. It's the letter of the law, but I actually worked these hours. Are you serious? You're deducting time for breaks I didn't take. It's the letter of the law. You don't like it, take it up with the labor board. I don't have time for this shit. Get back to your fucking desk and do your fucking job. All right, motherfucker. Now it's on. Piss me off all you like, be a dick all you like, but fuck with my money you are going to pay. I will fuck you over hard. I have a good friend, Eric, that I have known since high school who is an associate at one of the better law firms in town. I invited him out for a few beers and some wings on Sunday night and asked him if his firm handled stuff like this. You know, it's amazing the amount of advice you can get for a few pieces of chicken and some beer. Monday, I drove across town to a store and bought one of these. They are pretty easy to get. Just Google Spy Shop for your city or order one off Amazon. I fiddled around with it and figured out how to get it to work. I took my sandwich, a Coke, and a paperback novel and sat in my car. It didn't take long. On Wednesday, I showed up for work at my usual 11 am start time, and things in the office were business as usual until 4 on the dot. Taking my lunch break, I replied. About 10 after 4, Sob comes storming into the parking lot and demands to know exactly what the fuck I am doing. I need you back in there right now. Sorry, Sob, but if you're not paying me for my break time, then I am not working through my break time. The phones are ringing off the hook. Jeff needs to process a credit card payment, and Mike is just about to clear his call. Either you handle it, or I'll take care of it in checks. Countdown timer on cell phone 17 minutes. And then I rolled the window back up. It was beautiful. Sob turned red and stomped back into the office. When I returned, he demanded to know what the hell I thought I was up to. It's the letter of the law. I am entitled to a 30-minute unpaid break. You took that time off my timesheet, so now I am taking my break. I am entitled to it. He sputtered, but had no response, so I went back to my desk. 5 minutes later, I get an email instructing me to take my break before 12, so I can be back at my desk before Howard leaves for the day. I replied to his email, BCC copying the owner of the company and HR. I replied that I was unable to do so because, as per labor law, I was not entitled to a lunch break until 5 hours into my shift. Therefore, I would continue to be away from my desk for 30 minutes beginning at 4. I even snipped and pasted a paragraph from the Labor Board website to support my position. He came into my office and chewed me out at length. I won't budge. I told him it's the letter of the law. If you have a problem with it, take it up with the Labor Board. On Thursday, I explained that I had agreed to changing my hours on a temporary basis until a third person could be added to the office. I also agreed to continue to work them until the transition was complete. As Sob was now firmly in the groove, I now withdraw my consent to the change of hours as contractually specified, and beginning Monday would revert to the hours in my contract. Friday I show up at 11 am, and Sob is waiting for me with a printout of the email. HR and owner have been calling me. What the fuck is this all about? Simple. When I was hired, my hours were in the contract. Monday to Friday item to 430. They were changed by verbal agreement. Fuck that. Well, I withdraw my consent and stand on the hours specified in my contract. You work the same hours until I tell you differently. The hours of service in the contract are the letter of the law, contract law. If you want to change the hours, we can always renegotiate the contract. You want to alter the hours, fine. Then I want to alter my rate of pay. So I worked Sunday as usual, then showed up Monday at item. There was a flurry of emails, would send them to me, and I would copy HR and owner on my replies, since he wasn't copying them in at all. Howard asked me what the hell was going on, because Sob was bad-mouthing me all over the place, to him and to the techs. One thing you should know is that a good dispatcher in the service industry is a rare thing. I get along with all my plumbers, and they are asking me what's happening. I take the high road and basically reveal nothing. There are trucking dispatchers and taxi dispatchers and tow truck dispatchers, but finding one that knows how to balance plumbers and customers and solve problems is tough. I get along with these guys quite well. Towards early afternoon, I send Sob an email explaining that there are some late calls. Perfect. So I end up working until 6:30. How late do you need me to work? He replies, until the calls are run. Same on Tuesday, but 7th, Wednesday too. Sent emails both days, and Sob told me to stay both times. By Thursday morning, I had racked up 39. He replied to me only, and I sent an okay email reply copying the bosses in. 5 hours. 38 were in the office and 1. 5 hours taking after-hours calls. Just before I hit send, I turned to Howard and said, "You might want to make some popcorn." About 10 am I sent an email, again copying the bigwigs, and detailing my hours for the week, explaining that at 12:30 I would have a total of 44 hours, and as per Sob's directive of Suchansek, a date prohibiting overtime, I was left with no choice but to go home. Sob comes storming in and demands to know what the fuck. Well, Sob, I am only following your directive. You said no overtime, right? Well, as of 12:30, I will be on OT. Unless you say different, then I have to go. So it's either rescind the no overtime or I head out. Your call? Sob is now fucked. Or cover the dispatch board himself. Has been told to dial back on the overtime, and now is going to have to pay me out for half of Thursday, all of Friday, and all of Saturday. Work the fucking weekend, goddammit, you miserable fuck. You'll pay for this shit. Okay, I need that in writing. And I can't work Sunday, you have to. Listen, you little shit. You don't tell me when I have to work. I tell you when you have to work, and you're working Sunday. Nope. It's the letter of the law. I can show you. Labor law says specifically that I get 1 day off in 7. Howard can't work it, I can't work it, so I guess you have to. Since I worked last Sunday, and I am working every other day this week, I get this coming Sunday off. But my kid has a tournament on Sunday. Can't you bend the rules? Sorry, it's the letter of the law. Sob was a real treat to be around for Thursday and Friday, I assure you. And my little spy pen recorded every word out of his mouth. Monday I come in, I think this was the 26th of November, and the owner and HR and Sob are waiting for me. Sob wants to can me and up. Owner and HR want to know what the hell is going on. They are getting reports that I am being insubordinate and threatening to abandon my job. I explain everything and refer them to the emails that I copied them in on. He demanded that I go back to work on my break. They asked what started this whole mess, and I told them that Sob had said he was told to reduce overtime and took time off my check that I had actually worked. I laid it all out. Owner gave Sob the stinky and said, I never told you to dial back on, including my rate of pay. They asked me if I would be willing to go back to the hours I was working before. We can discuss it, but since this would be a major change to my employment contract, can you go back to those hours and then schedule a meeting? No, thank you. If I revert to previous hours, then you have no reason to schedule a meeting. We do the meeting first, then once we have a deal, you get the hours changed. Let us talk about it. Get back to you. Okay, but you need to discuss this soon. I am taking the last 3 weeks of December as vacation time. Sob explodes with owner and HR right there. I turn to owner and HR. You cocksucker, you're not taking any fucking vacation without my approval. By labor law, I am entitled to vacation time yearly. By contract law, I am entitled to 3 weeks. So far, I have taken 2 days this year. I have requested vacation twice, and Sob denied it both times. I can't take it in between when you fired Smashley and hired Sob because there were only 2 of us in the office. I get 3 weeks a year, and we are coming up to the end of the year. Company policy is use them or lose them, so I am using them. HR says, pay you out the accrued vacation time. I look at her and reply, I don't agree to your offer. I am entitled to the time. I want the time, not the money. She thinks for a minute and says, roll it over into the new year. I don't agree to your offer. I am entitled to the time this year, not next year. Sob pipes up, and am taking my family to Florida. You can't take the time, there's nobody to run the shop. What, you're going to Florida, so you expect me to run the entire show alone, work 7 days a week, and you send an email saying no overtime? Are you fucking serious? All of the plumbers have to work a full year before they are entitled to a vacation. Back to owner and HR. Look, I had to work a full year before I was entitled to a vacation. Labor law says you have to work a full year before you're entitled to a vacation. And is telling me that I am not allowed to take my vacation because he's going to Florida and has only been here for 3 months. Is that what I am hearing here? You guys told me to hold off on vacation time until we got a third person, points at Sob. No payout? There he is right there, and I am taking the vacation I am entitled to. No rollover. And if you want to renegotiate my contract, it can wait until the new year. And I stormed out of the office. Calls me every name in the book. I don't know what the rest of the meeting was like, but about an hour later Sob starts chewing me out again, saying how he's up thousands of dollars, and now he has to tell his kids that they aren't going to Disney World. The next 2 weeks were hell. What an asshole. Calling me names, telling me he want rest, until I am out on my ass, telling me I'm the worst piece of crap he ever worked with. So I took my vacation time, didn't do a damn thing, didn't travel, just kicked back and relaxed, and spent time with my parents over the holidays. I get back in January, and there's a new face sitting at my desk, and Saab is there with a shite-eating grin and my separation papers. HR put laid off rather than fired. Now, where I live, if someone calls a former employer for a reference, all the former employer is permitted to say is the time frame the former employee worked there and whether or not he would be eligible for rehire. So a few days into January, Saab gets a phone call. "Hi Saab, my name is Eric and we're looking at Op's resume here. He says you were his most recent employer. You're on speaker, what can you tell us about him?" Saab goes off like a stick of dynamite, calling me every name in the book, saying that I was a horrible worker, lying about missing time, telling all sorts of bullshit. I let him go on and on. "Hey, Saab," recognize my voice. He stops his ranting. "Yeah, you fucker. I know your voice." And this call is being placed from their conference room. Ever hear of the law offices of Dewey, Scrum, Ober, and Houthire lawyers? Nice talking to you, Saab. The next call we're making is to owner and getting his lawyer's name. It took a while, but a meeting got scheduled with owner, HR Saab, owner's lawyer, me, and Eric. It was beautiful. Eric explained that I was starting a claim for wrongful dismissal, and this meeting was to explore the possibility of a settlement. We laid out everything. Every email, a timeline of events, and then the piece de la resistance. A supercut of the audio of Saab yelling, threatening, ranting, and just being Saab. Saab went white. They texted us within 20 minutes to return. They asked us to excuse them for a few minutes, so Eric and I went for a coffee and chuckled. Owner stared at him the whole time like he wanted to erase him from the face of the earth. Owner's lawyer explained that they were admitting no liability or wrongdoing, but that as a gesture of goodwill, they were willing to offer me 3 months severance if I would sign a waiver. Eric smiled, declined, and then played the tape from the conference room about the reference. Another break. We came back, and they upped the offer to 6 months. He also mentioned that he was present at the time, and so were 2 of his colleagues, and all were willing to file affidavits to that effect. We countered with 2 years severance. Eventually, we settled on 15 months, with me to collect a check every 2 weeks, as if I was employed based on an average of my hours for the past 6 months of my employment. And I had racked a lot of overtime in those 6 months. My skill set is in demand, and it didn't take long for me to find another job doing the same thing but for one of their competitors. They even tried to stick a clause prohibiting me from working for anyone in the same industry while the deal was in effect, but Eric spotted it and had it struck out. It's awesome. These guys pay me on one Friday and my working job pays me on the next. I am racking up savings like you won't believe, and Eric was pretty gentle with his billing. Still looking for a job, as far as I know. It's the letter of the law. Saab, he was canned in no time, and between me and owner's network of contacts, the rumor mill has basically made him untouchable. I did tell my new employer to shitsen his resume if they ever got one. But if I ever get a phone call asking me for a reference for Saab, all I can tell them is that I worked with him for 4 months in 2018. I can't say more than that. This comment is from ProRevenge. I love it when horrible people try to use the law to get their way only to have it flipped right back at them. GJ Op. This comment is from Berbelly Begone. Good on y'all, Op. Op checked every single box on the way to perfect ProRevenge. CYA in writing, check recording Saab's transgressions. This comment is from Nemesis of Sid. The read was long. The payoff was worth it. That was Reddit Reads r/ProRevenge. If you like this content, please subscribe and click the bell icon so you are notified of new uploads. We upload new videos every day. Also subscribe to our Patreon as that will help us a lot. See you next time.